to do a little bit of the current state of Icinga, which is primarily the things we have done in the last like 6-7 months. Who has been to OSMC in Nuremberg? Okay, not so many of you, which is quite good because there's some duplicates in it. So all the new stuff we are coming on is coming in the next talks, but I give you a little bit of an overview what has been done in the last months, what new modules are out there, and to pretty much like guide you into the day. Just a very short introduction. My name is Bernd. I work for Icinga since pretty much the beginning, and yeah, that's it. What is Icinga? Is there anyone who is not working with Icinga right now? So is here someone who's like, perhaps I start with Icinga in a couple of weeks? So everybody has a clue what Icinga is all about and all this stuff, I assume. That's very good. I don't have to go into this. So what is our approach? From the beginning, we invested a lot of work that we have a very scalable multi-tenancy system, which is built on foundation like infrastructure as code, where we try to get all our objects in, high availability to be in place for larger enterprises, to have redundant scenarios and all that stuff. So that was important. We have a lot of users and customers, which is not always the same, who use Icinga for their environment. I would like to highlight like 3 customer stories which are pretty new on our website. One, for example, is the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute. If you would like to scan the QR code, I hope I didn't mix up some of them, but I tried them all, which leads you to the website where you can find all the details about the success story, what they are doing. It's like a public funded health institute with about 900 employees monitoring with Icinga. So that's really cool, interesting, and read that success story on our website. Sun Chemical is a very large company in the United States. They are pretty much the largest like manufacturer for ink printing stuff. What's very interesting with them is that even I had no clue that this company existed. On the way here on the Autobahn yesterday, we saw like a Sun Chemical truck for the first time. So it's really, really a big brand, perhaps not so well known. One of you ever heard of this? One, okay. So it's really, really a large shop. So it's really cool to do what they do. They have about 10,000 different trademarks run under this company. So this is a crazy huge player, which probably you're not familiar with the main brand, but with all the different brands they are on the market. And last but not least, Müller, which is a very big drugstore chain in Germany, hopefully familiar to you. They also do Icinga on a very large scale. They have about like 37,000 employees. We also have people here from Müller, I guess, here in the back. So if you want to ask them directly, they are super happy to answer all your questions. I can see it. Don't take your head down. So definitely take the chance, grab them in the coffee break. If you would like to learn more about who is using Icinga, how they use Icinga, what they do with it, you can find all this information on the website, so please take a chance and have a look. I would like to move forward a little bit with the different fields we have in Icinga in parts of infrastructure monitoring, cloud monitoring, metrics, and notifications part, which we see an interesting talk after my talk. But I would like to give you some updates what has happened in the last months. So the last version we have seen on Icinga, 2.13.7, came out in February. We have done a lot of stuff highlighting Icinga DB. There was some stuff in redundancy, writing to Redis DB, which we have tackled, in enhancing the performance with apply rules, and also some stuff in Windows. We have a new version 2.14 coming up in the next 2 months, perhaps this month, perhaps next month, but in the next 2 months the 2.14 will come out. There's especially a large focus on increasing the reload performance. So who is like, let's say, not the problems, let's say challenges with reloading Icinga? Because it takes too long. Okay, then the 2.14 is definitely a very interesting release for you. I have one screenshot which is like snipped out of Julian's blog post. There's a blog post on the Icinga blog where he's explaining what's happening. And the interesting thing is like the first part of the graph shows you like a reload of the configuration with like the current Icinga, whatever version that it was exactly at the time, where you see that during the reload we have a lot of like logging and mutix going on in the core, which uses that we mainly do system I/O on the CPU, and you see like the smaller dotted line, which is like the number of context switches going on, and you see also the amount of time Icinga took to reload the configuration. We drastically removed that, implementing other logic like shared mutixes to reduce that reload behavior, and you can see like in the next upcoming version that so one thing is like we drastically reduced the amount of time Icinga needs to reload because of that enhancement in the Icinga core, and also of course that, and this is also a result of the performance improvement, reduced the number of system and increased the time of like user CPO we can use, and this is really, really cool. Perhaps not everyone is totally into multi-threading, like I am not, but the blog post itself is super cool to read what they have done in the core team to do that. There's also the pull request in GitHub where it's like explained in detail which version, which configuration leads to a specific performance outcome. But long story short, it will drastically improve your reload time with the upcoming Icinga 2.14, and probably hopefully you see it in the next days, weeks, and definitely give it a chance. So Icinga DB, who is using Icinga DB? There's definitely room for improvement, but way more than the last time, of course. We worked a long time on Icinga DB. What is it? The primary thing is that Icinga DB is not writing the data to the database directly. So in some cases we do, like the structural data is written to the database, but all this like volatile data, which is like changing all the time, is going to Redis, which is and was a thing at the time, especially in large environments, that we in some cases like killed the database with just like writing okay all the time. And now writing it to Redis gave it a drastically improvement on the database side. But also not only it makes sense to migrate to Icinga DB because you have like an improved database performance, but also because the web module for Icinga DB is totally advanced compared to the old Icinga web monitoring module. So definitely give it a chance. We have, was there a question, something? No. What came out with Icinga DB 1.1, that we have a migration script where you can migrate all your historical information out of the IDO to the Icinga DB database model. It's also, it gives you a chance, if you really have like a large history in Icinga IDO, that you can restart and restart the migration process and move all the historical data back, especially for reporting circumstances, that you have all the historical data back in Icinga DB. So definitely I would like to recommend, like last time I showed how the migration process works and how fast it is. You can run them in parallel, so you can enable both modules. I would say it's pretty much zero risk to give Icinga DB a try, even like run it in parallel if you don't trust it at first time. But since we have more and more customers and users running in production, also in larger environments with Icinga DB, I definitely recommend you using it. And also you will see it in all the future like module releases. We rely on Icinga DB. So this is definitely where the future is. There is no, specifically, I know a date where we like drop IDO in some version, but I think someday we will do it, whatever someday means. So definitely take a chance to move on and go from IDO to Icinga DB. If you're fast enough, you can scan the QR code or you find it on the docs. So all these stuff I write here is like documented on the website, and you can find it there. Icinga for Windows. Who is using Icinga for Windows? Like 30%-ish. So Christian, who's mainly developing Icinga for Windows, did a lot with version 1.10. He initially planned to do a 1.11 for this camp, which did not work out because there's a lot of stuff to do in the back. There are new versions for all the major plugins in Icinga for Windows, like Hyper-V, MS SQL, and all that stuff. And also there are Grafana dashboards delivered with Icinga for Windows. So if you're using Grafana, install Icinga for Windows, you get all this. You get the information. So this is like virtual switches you can see here, or also like the different database instances or your your service that you get into the Grafana dashboards. You can import them, have directly access to. The next version will be like 1.11. I don't know exactly when it will come through. What is pretty much for sure following Christian is that we have like a 1.12 in November this year. One thing we already have planned now is in the new Icinga core that we can directly talk to the REST API of Icinga for Windows, so we don't have to respond that all the time. So there's the check provider, or pretty much the API request to Icinga for Windows is directly compiled into Icinga core, which is an improvement if you do a lot of Windows stuff. And the plan is to be like delivering more of the standard sets out with Icinga for Windows, that for like a typical MS SQL server or Exchange, you get all these service sets provided. Some of the check log will be transferred to the PowerShell framework. So there's a lot going on. Definitely, if you are not on 1.10, you should give it a try. And 1.11 and 1.12 will follow later this year. Certificate monitoring, so who's using that? It's just like a little bit of getting data. We don't want to like send out sheets to get an idea who's using that stuff. Icinga certificate monitoring, there was a new version in April. There's Postgres support in there. I think this was one of the last modules we missed that. Is it correct, Eric? This kind of certificate monitoring. All the standard like filter search bar is in it. And there is a new scheduler where we can pretty much, there was this grunt syntax whenever you would like to do the certificate checks and run through your network segments and evaluate the data. That part is new now, built in the IPL, the Icinga PHP library. We have that component where you configure your schedule for querying your infrastructure. I'm good in time. And here you can see that also there's improved UI. Getting the certificate information out is really, really cool. You see if the certification chain is valid. You can pretty auto discover your network zones, multiple of them, and get an idea what's going on. So this is super helpful, and especially with the latest adoption. And you can see like the filter bar is on top now, which is the standard Icinga web component to query through the objects is in there. There's more details on the certificates in that screenshot, and also you get like an overview on what's going on, if there is something coming up soon as a renewal, or if you have certificates which takes longer, especially like the critical stuff, what's coming up in the next 3 months. Is there a question? Oh.
Hi, just a quick one. Who's running the checks on the certificates? Is that Icinga Web? Is it an agent? What is it running the checks?
Can you repeat it again, please?
Yes. The checks to actually get data for the certificates.
Yeah.
Where is it running? Is it on a satellite, on a master node, on Icinga Web?
The check is executed on the master node. So the scheduler is running and querying all the different network zones. And then you can, and is your question like how and where this is executed, or what we do with the results? So it's executed on the master. I think you can probably install the certificate monitoring also somewhere else. That's technically not a problem, but I would say the standard scenario is like querying out from the master. Also, you can find more about it, of course, in the docs. Doing the talk now, I'm pretty much not sure if this is valuable that I show you like 20 QR codes. I thought it was a good idea a couple of days ago, but perhaps not. Anyway, docs.icinga.com, you can find all this stuff. There is an update on Icinga Web Jira integration. So who's using this? Okay, don't feel ashamed. It's okay. It's not easy, as always, for a Jira user in the public. It's cool. I mean, if people use it a lot, people bash it a lot. But it's really, really a powerful instrument. And of course, because we have a lot of users using it, there's an integration for Jira, which is interesting that we now support configuration in Icinga Web, even like for the on-prem and for the cloud edition, which is, as far as I know, it's a different stack. I think like Jira Cloud, perhaps some of the Jira users know better, but as far as I know, like Jira Cloud is also started as a different development, like the on-premise version. So it needs to be like accessed differently. And also, which is pretty cool, that we now can create templates how we would like to open up issues in Jira. So if we get like notifications, events going on in Icinga, we can directly open up issues in Jira with a specific template and can configure them. And also you see in the ticket search that you get all the Jira issues integrated in Icinga Web, can see what's going on, see the status, who is working on it, see where it's coming from, can directly access using the issue link on the top, on the right top side, going to Jira, open that issue. So if you use Jira to do like incident management and working on ongoing issues, this is super helpful to get your data into Icinga and have your data integrated there. So definitely have a look on that. I'm still in time. Icinga module for vSphere. So who's using this? Okay, thank you. There was a large update last year, and there was like a new minor release also in minor release April this year. So who's already on the 1.7? Not so many. Like I would say, like 20–30% of the users. A lot happened in the 1.7 last year. So there's new check plugins. There was a lot of work done in the UI. There's a capability to directly write into InfluxDB if you use it directly out of the vSphere module. And also, which is more interesting perhaps on the GUI perspective, we have the vendor pictures integrated where you can see which server you have, especially on the hardware level, to see what's going on. You see what adapters are in there, what, I don't know, fiber channel stuff are in there. Also, you see like the exact tree of all the status data we query out of the machine getting in there. Also, and I have another screenshot which is ganz interesting. We have the restricted access on specific vCenters, which is new. So if you have multiple vCenters integrated in Icinga Web, you can now restrict them role-based to allow a specific user group to just access a specific vCenter. So for a larger setup, this could be pretty interesting. Also, there was like an improved mobile view, which is part of the revamp of the web interface. You get this with you. So I think major things is the influx stuff, to write directly if that's the case in your environment. Get a better restriction, especially in larger setup, is a very good reason to upgrade and use Icinga vSphere 1.7. Icinga Cube. Who is using this? Who has never heard what this is? Which is totally fine. Okay, many of you. Icinga Cube, I'm not sure if that's the initial idea, but I'm sure it was, kind of. That users of Icinga, especially when they have larger infrastructure, it was some way hard to group their infrastructure. Of course, you can do things like host groups or service groups and can do like a grouping, let's say not hardwired, but pretty hardwired, using Icinga configuration. But we more and more figured out that people use like custom variables, which is kind of could be like effect on a specific object, to say if an object is like in production, like use it as a location, perhaps in which rack it is, in which data center it is, for which customer is working on, and use their configuration process, if like they use Icinga Director or use Puppet or Ansible or whatever users do to configure Icinga, and enrich their monitoring configuration with these custom variables. And with Icinga Cube, it gives you the possibility to query these custom variables and let's pretty much say slice and dice through your data using these environment variables. So what's new in Cube? Also the filter bar is integrated there. You can have a problems only view, and even, which is really cool, that on host dimension you can use specific service variables. And how that looks like, I show you in my only demo right now. So, can you see it? Is it large enough?
Too small.
It's too small. Better?
Yes.
Okay. So we go to Icinga Cube, and this is pretty much cool because it's our production and demo system at the same time. And thanks to Blarim, we have demo data in the production system, and I hope I don't mess it up. So what is the primary idea? So let's say we have different custom variables assigned to a monitoring object. Could be like a host or service. In this case, I start with a host, and I would say, to, especially for my demo data, I enriched my host objects with a custom variable named location. And let's say, okay, I have these locations going on. So what's pretty much, let's say in database wording, it would be like a select distinct, right? So group all these stuff together or group them by location. And also you can see the status going on. You can directly go and filter out like okay states because you're just interested in things which are not okay. So this is a new thing up there. Even this is pretty easy, it's very handy. But also you say, okay, I have different locations, but I would like to go down more and would like to bring in another criteria and say I would like to add a dimension and say it's like environment, which in this case you get first ungrouped by location now, so which is like Berlin, London, New York, Sydney, and then into that location you get them grouped by production, staging, or whatever. So wrap your mind around it. It could be whatever makes sense for you. It could be also responsibility. So which, let's say, department or which like development group is responsible for a specific service. And which is pretty interesting because it's like an open module. You can change the sort criteria. So you can take up and filter and turn it around and say, I would like to separate it through like production, staging, testing, and then would like to bring the locations in there, if that makes sense. So you can freely group it. Again, also you can just show problems only. Of course, you can go in there and directly access these objects. You can modify them directly if you use Icinga Director, and also see the status for all the filtered out objects in there. And this is totally free and independent from, let's say, a static host group and service group configuration. So this is free over all your monitoring objects you have in there. First of all, and another thing which is pretty cool, that in that, let's say, host definition, you can also filter out specific services. So you see now in the service tab, you see all the services is going down. Again, I filtered out problems only, so I can see all of them, and I see all the production servers, or all the testing servers in New York, which is not so many in this case. But you also can say, I would like to, even if like I have a host filter going on, I would like to see that perspective based on service arguments. So you can use this and say, for instance, service name is disk. No? So. I had this before. Why? Okay. I tried it 10 minutes ago, of course. Yeah. Oh, is it disk? Okay, so even if you have like a host filter going on, you can go on these service and filter down more objects on, even if like in a host environment, host location, and filter on specific, on a service display name and disk. So I take problems only, I go to Berlin, and just see the disk services on the slice of staging service in Berlin. Does it make sense? Okay, so definitely have a look. This is a really cool way. So first of all, enrich your data with all this information, and with Icinga Cube, give you a totally different perspective on your monitoring environment. Again, you have the docs. So what's next? Next is a lot of great talks. I'm pretty much in time. It's 10. So that was just like a quick overview of what's happened, what's out there, what you can use now. And now you learn more about what's coming up, which is way cooler than the things I showed you. Thanks for being here, and enjoy the day. Thank you.